My name is Mark Brewer. I'm the CEO and President of Lightbend. I've been here since 2012. The company predates me by about 6 months. I was brought in by the first investors that put money into the company in 2012. My background is in this space. I've been running companies in the developer platform, developer tooling technologies for 20 some odd years now. First off, for me, it was probably the most eye-opening of any kind of assessment program I've ever experienced, where it not only nailed what kind of person I am, but also how I interact with others, how I'm perceived by them and how I deal with them in different situations. Then probably within the next 6 months, we decided to actually take all of our executives through the full seminar, the 3-day seminar session on how to read, how to interpret the assessments, how to use that information in our everyday activities here at Lightbend. And we also made the decision at that point to roll it out across the whole company. So since then, we have actually, as any new employee joins the company, we've asked them to take the assessment. We share that assessment for every individual with the entire company. And it's something that we use heavily across the organization as we go forward in our interactions and meetings with every individual in the company. So Lightbend has grown both organically and through some acquisitions. Most of the acquisitions have been really small, like a person or two, but we did 2 in the last 2 years. One with about a 20-person team up in Canada, and that team was mostly made up of consultants and trainers who delivered professional services around our technology. They were primarily based there in Canada. There were a few here in the US. But when they did come on board, we asked them all to go through the assessment, and both as individuals, but also because they were part of a team and wanted to make sure we knew how they would work well or not within that team. So for the Canadian experience, it was pretty straightforward. A general comment about Canadians, they're very friendly, and they first looked at this as kind of a way of judging who they were, their personalities, and probably took not offense to it, but certainly weren't too thrilled about the idea. After going through the exercise and seeing the results and having conversations with their teammates and others in the company, they found this to be extremely valuable, just like we experienced with other people inside of Lightbend. But that was probably, of all the large groups that we did the assessment, the one that had the biggest hurdle to overcome, if you will, and just accepting what these things were about. We then did another acquisition about a year ago, so in early 2017, of a company here in Silicon Valley called Ops Clarity, and it's primarily engineers, and they're all Silicon Valley-based engineers. I think the experience there, I wasn't as involved, but I think the experience there was pretty straightforward, that most of the people were fine with the assessment, but more than that, kind of expected it as part of the process of joining this company, because they both saw value in what it told them about themselves, but they also saw value in how they could learn or understand better how they were going to fit within the organization, within Lightbend, and the team members that they were going to have to be working with. And the final comment on both of those is neither of those two organizations remained isolated. They're all fully integrated into Lightbend, and were so almost immediately. So it was really important for us to have a clear idea of those persons that were joining, but also make sure that they were aware of the teams that they were joining inside of Lightbend so they could collaborate and work well together. So I would say the experience for me that's probably been over time has been developed in that it started out with one purpose in mind. That first purpose for me was all about being able to better assess and understand what was it going to be like working with these executives, this team that I had to work with every day in both the good parts of the business, but also in the stressful situations. And clearly I got great value out of GRI initially for that purpose. What I didn't expect was it would be able to help me in just dealing interactions on a day-by-day basis with other team members in the company. So I do a one-on-one assessment, or not assessment, sorry, a one-on-one anniversary meeting with every employee in the company once a year, and it's usually about an hour long. And one of the things I started doing is, as I realized this was available to me, was looking at their GRI profile before those one-on-one sessions, especially if it was somebody new to me, somebody that I hadn't met yet, or somebody that I hadn't had an interaction with yet, and found the conversations to be both much more, not meaningful, but just I think effective, because I understood the person better. And so I continue to do that now every time I do these anniversary one-on-ones. So taking a quick look at their profile helps me remind me what they're like, and also give me a little more perspective on how do I interact with them? What's their communication style? What's their way of processing information, whether it's me giving them direction or just me collecting feedback on the company. So I would say that that's been an evolution for me in how I leverage the GRI. As an organization, there are many aspects of the GRI, many aspects of the company's operation that leverage the GRI. Everything from when we have personnel issues, we look at what do we know about this person. Maybe we can discover something here that will help us do a better job of giving them guidance and helping them improve if there are performance issues. I'd say it also helps tremendously in team dynamics. And we move people around in the organization based on project needs. Some people stay in the same team for a long period of time, but more often you end up moving around. And it's really helpful to have a good idea of what that team dynamic is like based on the information we can pull from the assessments. And then look at the individual that we bring into that team and what's the impact going to be. Or is there a problem there that we should be aware of so we avoid it. And then finally, we've just started using it as a tool for us to do a better job of recruiting and hiring in some departments. I'd like to see us do more of that, but it has been valuable when we have. Been valuable in making sure that that team member is going to be able to be effective right away inside the organization or inside that team they're joining. The last thing I would comment on is it was something you asked earlier about the language. The opportunity to use a tool with a well-defined set of terms that define a person's personality kind of makes it easier to have a conversation about situations that might be otherwise difficult. So what I mean by that is that if you have somebody who's just stubborn or really hard to get your point across, they won't move off of the opinion that they have, and you look at what you can tell about them in their profile from the assessment, you not only know possibly what's causing that difficult conversation, but you also have a way to communicate with them in probably a less threatening way and using the terms that come from the GRI.